Ocean Beach, Rhyl, North Wales. This is Rhyl's misery line, where passengers insist on a hellish time.
But it's more than a business, it's a way of life. The building itself is probably 35 years of age, but the cars and the track, they go back to probably early 30s. My brothers ran it before me, and now it's my turn. I've got another 50 years to go, I think, or something like that. I get a gold medal in it. They put me inside. The rest of the family are in there.
It costs Noah Robinson's thrill-seeking passengers 80 pence to ride 100 yards of twisting, turning single track, all set out in the space of a small bungalow.
Go around corners easily. It's a single-wheel drive. It's the narrowest gauge because it's a single rail, and you can't get any smaller than a single rail.
High up in the Welsh mountains lie the ghosts of another rail system. Locomotives in Slate quarries had to twist and turn around tight curves. Though not as flexible as a single rail, this 2-foot narrow gauge track is the next best thing. This loco is a soldier of a revolution that mechanised these mountains. Thomas Bach, now tarted up in Thomas the Tank Engine livery, worked the De Norwich Slate quarry for 60 years. Tom Roberts was one of its drivers.
Mama dechreuais I weithio yn y gwylod yma yma. Fel stocar mewn ffordd, taniwr mewn ffordd. Wedyn oeddech chi'n troi y points. Oedd yr injan ddim yn stopio neu byd I droi y points de. Oedd y dreifar mo'n deitha chi wedyn oeddech chi'n gwybod gwibio o'r injan I droi y points. Na ddim stopio na ddim byd de. Ond yn y chwarel oedd wahanol I fama chi, wahanol I fama de. Chos doedd gennych chi'n cab na'n byd de. Na dim byd ar yr intis mewn y chwarel. Wedyn oeddech chi'n... Chi oedd yr hedag y bonc mewn ffordd. Oeddech chi galori yn Saesneg mewn ffordd de. Hedag y bonc. Wedyn oeddech chi'n gwybod mynd â wageni'r chwarelwyr ag ceir maen nhw'n galw nhw I gario cerig a dod nhw allan o'r twll a i'r ben y gillti gael ei gwllwn I lawr i'r sedia. O calad iawn de, chydig iawn o bres de. Fwyd calad iawn de.
This film was shot at the De Norwich loading sheds in 1959. On the right is Tom Roberts' father dispatching roofing slate for transport to the quarry's own port.
Dyna chi pam ddeis i'r chwarel am bod yn had y gweithio yma. Wedyn o ryw naturiol am tad a mab ydy'r chwarel dwi'n meddwl.
Thomas Bach still labours for a major Welsh industry, but tourists, not Slate, are now hauled along the scenic route to Port de Norwich. Around 20 of these classic little quarry locos survive in working order. But there's only one of these that works. Al Fisher bought it in 1960.
These engines were sold by weight in those days, you know, almost so much a pound. And I picked this one, not through any great foresight, as here was a valuable engine. It was because it was the smallest I could possibly find. And at the time I bought it, for £21, everybody said, you're mad, you know, why don't you buy a proper engine?
Though it looks more like a Meccano set, in fact, this is a proper engine. Alf's loco was one of the first to bring the Industrial Revolution to quarries.
And it was only about 1869 to 70 that somebody had the bright idea of putting steam engines in the quarries to replace the horses.
Challoner was made by a firm of marine engineers. Its upright boiler has more in common with a steamship.
This vertical boiler type of engine, for a start, it's very, very rugged and very robust, and it's very, very simple to build. Now, as far as the quarries were concerned, it was fine because it's very quick to light up and produce the heat, because it's like a kettle. In fact, it's very often called a coffee pot is the name for this type of engine. It's also sometimes called the galloping tea urn, but never mind. We put the fire underneath, the water is above it, the heat goes straight up these tubes, and it therefore brews up very, very quickly. Whereas in a conventional engine, the heat has to pass along tubes that way and out of the chimney. So we can produce heat very, very quickly indeed. Conversely, a lot of heat is wasted and goes out of the chimney. So that's the disadvantage of it. The other thing about it is that we have to bolt the cylinders onto the front of the boiler. They are vertical as well. So instead of driving back and forwards like a conventional engine, they drive up and down. And they're bolted to the boiler there. And this means, of course, that they haven't got any springs. Now, this is all very well if you're on beautiful level track, but in the quarries, the track got a bit rough. And therefore, if you came to a bit where you had a curve and the track dipped down a bit, there's a great tendency with these engines to go straight on and come off, you see. But having said that, it's a very surprisingly smooth engine because it can't pitch about and rock about and roll as more modern engines do.
This is a more modern engine. It was built in 1902. Unlike Challoner, it was made by specialist loco engineers.
Now, whereas the De Winton engines were the successor to the horse, this little engine is the successor to the De Wintons. Now, this is the posh man's engine, or the rich quarry owners had these only a few years after the De Wintons, but these are a much more conventional engine. They have a horizontal boiler, they have the cylinders and conventional pistons and coupling rods, and they have springs. Now, these engines were not Welsh, they were built in England, and they were built by the Hunslet Company in Leeds. This little engine is a classic. I think there was probably about 100 of these built for the North Wales quarries, and very long-lasting, very durable things they were. Like the De Wintons, there's only really room for one person on these engines. In the old days, they didn't really care a great deal about the drivers. They didn't have cabs, but nevertheless, there was a reason for this, because a lot of these quarries, they had tunnels, and they had to go through these tunnels, so if you put a cab on, it wouldn't go through the tunnel. On the footplate, the controls are extremely primitive. They're basically the same as the De Winton. Very lovely to drive on a nice day.
Name is number 2.
Today, Hunslet Alice enjoys an active retirement on the Leighton Buzzard Light Railway, ironically on the sand quarry line that runs alongside a roof tile factory whose products saw off Welsh slate. Back in Wales, just a mile across the valley from where Hunslet Alice worked, is a railway whose fortunes are very different. It uses Swiss locos to make money from the mountains and hauls people, not rocks.
Mount Snowdon was a tourist attraction long before the railway was thought of. People went up on foot, on horses, on mules.
But for the rest of us, there's a more comfortable way of reaching the heights.